All right, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Sports with Doc and Dudes. Really good to be with you. Really looking forward to talking sports again. So, dudes, how we doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, everybody's doing good. All right,
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, Dwayne, why don't you get us rolling with our first story then?
All right. So, TJ Mcdaniel, I don't know if you guys have heard of him or not. He's a running back. Well, he is currently a running back on SMU's roster. Hadn't played in over a year. So he was a starting running back last year. So a year ago on the first play from scrimmage, gets the ball, breaks his leg. He ended up breaking his tibia. Yeah, his tibia and his fibula, fractured them both, and then dislocated his ankle. They were playing Memphis. So in the article I read, it says as he's laying on the field on the turf, he popped his foot back into place, like popped his ankle back into place, so it wasn't as bad, so it wouldn't seem as bad. Obviously, they're doctors; they can tell that your ankle has been dislocated. They've been around sports injuries for a long time. So he said that as he was getting carted off the field, he remembers hearing SMU's doctor talking about surgery. So, obviously they had to wait a little bit, swelling and everything to go down. Well, those few days, in the few days that he was waiting for everything to go down, he decided that he's going to go an alternative route. And instead of having surgery, he was going to essentially get stem done to his ankle and to his fibula. Decided not to have surgery, and one of the reasons was it's one of the one of the buzzwords right now is my body, my choice. He opted not to have it, and then religious reasons came into play. They didn't want any metal in his body. So him and his family opted to not have surgery. His brother is the CEO or one of the co-founders of a company here, not in Texas, but his brother's a co-founder in a company, and that's what they're doing. They're doing sending electrodes into your injured part of your body, and that's how they're doing it. They're avoiding surgery. They're avoiding everything. As far as like, I guess, a common fix to something that catastrophic, an injury that catastrophic. So he just said he didn't want to do it. He didn't trust the surgery. He didn't want the metal in his body. And here's his quote. The human body just knows the human body. It's scientifically proven. That's the whole reason why. Whenever you have an open wound, it scabs over, and then you have a brand new layer of skin. Your body knows that scar isn't supposed to be there. It's no different with my foot, and that's kind of why I trusted it. So sounds kind of crazy to me, but he has his reasonings. He has it all planned out, and his brother actually is, like I said, he was a co-founder. He played football at Notre Dame, ended up going to the Canadian Football League, played, a couple years there. Well, he had stumbled into it. He had a bad hamstring injury. Ended up getting hooked up with the guy that he co-founded this business with, and that's how he treated his hamstring, and said it was to use the word. He said it felt he was a brand new man with the treatment and everything that he had to do. So he ended up meeting with Sonny Dykes, and Sonny Dykes signed off on it. Yeah, it's his body. You're good. We're supporting you 100%. So I guess my thought is, what do you guys think on, like, yes, he's a scholarship player, obviously was on scholarship. Sonny Dykes signed off on it. What do you think? Do you think SMU has, I don't even know how to say it. Like, do you think SMU has, yes, they did the responsibility. They set up his doctor's appointments and all that. He did his due diligence. He went to him, but he came across this. So do you think SMU has their due diligence? Hey, yeah, Sonny Dykes, this is our guy. We're going to stick to him. I'm going to sign the waivers. I'm going to sign all that. And then do you think they have the due diligence of keeping him on scholarship, keeping him on full scholarship? It's been a year. I just saw it was on October 3rd of last year. So it's been a year and 4 days. And he still hasn't played. He's starting to work out and he's doing all that stuff, but he can't have any contact. So do you think SMU has done their due diligence in the year and he's still not back? Do you think they still have to stick by him? Or, yeah, so I guess in other words, is SMU in the right by sticking with their guy, keeping him on scholarship? I'm just curious to what you guys would do in that situation if you were Sonny Dykes, or if you were even the parent or the player. You know, what you guys would do in that situation?
I think you got to keep him on scholarship. I mean, this kid made a promise to you to play, you know, as much as he could, and he got limited. And then the SMU promised him a scholarship to pay for his college. So I think just because he got injured, I don't think you could take that scholarship away. He fulfilled his duty until he got hurt. And now you're going to sit here and say, hey, no, wait, you know, and it's not, I mean, breaking your leg is not necessarily his fault.
Right.
I mean, you got the Ohio State kid that ran off the field like a temper tantrum, and they're paying his scholarship till the end of the semester. But that's him blowing himself up. So, yeah, I think SMU's good for keeping him on scholarship. I applaud him.
I don't know. I guess the only reason I questioned it a little bit was because I guess just because he went the alternative route. I guess it raises eyebrows. You know, I'm going. Obviously, his brother's not a doctor. The other guy he co-founded it with's not a doctor. All the doctors were saying, "Hey, you need to have obviously you need to have surgery." I guess that's kind of what I'm stuck on is he didn't go the conventional route and just had the surgery and did all that. Because if he would have, you know, he would have been the starter, or he would have been playing at least, maybe not the starter, but he would have been playing at least. So I guess that's kind of what I'm hung on, is that he didn't go the conventional route. He went the alternate route, and it worked. He's working out, he's doing all that. He's not actually fulfilling his role as being an actual SMU football player. And from what I've read, I don't even think he's on campus. He was in California the last I saw working out with one of his trainers. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of what I'm hooked on.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's interesting because I personally, okay, like I am all for people looking at alternative treatments. You know, if that's what you think it's your body, right? I mean, so, yeah. And so if you think that's what is helpful for you, and I think sometimes we don't give credit to some of the alternative treatments and that are out there. So like for one example, for me, I know it's a little bit off topic, but like there's a lot of NFL players and former NFL players who are advocating that they should be able to take CBD to treat the effects of concussions, right? And I think that's a no-brainer for me. Like I just see, like, you know, I would much rather have someone taking CBD than get hooked on prescription drugs and get addicted to prescription drugs or whatever, right? But that's not allowed, right? And why is that? And I think those are important questions to ask. But so I guess to your point, like, I think we have to respect people's, you know, it may not be what we'd like, but he's not violating any team rules. He's not doing anything, like he's not getting arrested. You know, so I think just like they might keep a scholarship for somebody that has some sort of other personal hardship that, you know, takes him away from the team for a while. And it's just from a PR standpoint, it's not going to look good if you get rid of the guy just because you don't like how he's treating his injury. So then there's the optics of it and the public relations of it. So, and then you have to look at the cultural side of it too. Like, what is the message to other players if we do that to him? You know, could that then send a ripple effect through other players about how we treat guys for whatever, right? So I think it's a good move. I think they're right to support him, and I think it's really cool that Sonny Dykes is willing to work with him on it. So that's just me.
And Coach Dykes was the one that said, it's his body. Who am I? Yeah, I'm the head coach, but who am I to tell him no? You can't do that. You got to do this. He said no. If it wasn't a knee jerk reaction. He thought about it. He met with his family. He did his research on it. So, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think it was weird. Something like that I'd never heard about. And it was just crazy.
Yeah, it's a real interesting situation. Like Dustin, I'm surprised that SMU and Sonny Dykes have kept him on this long. Especially like you said, he's not even, getting any contact right now. And maybe you're right. Maybe if he did go surgery, he did, he'd be back quicker. But this is his, like y'all said, it's his body, it's his choice. He did his research. Let's say a lot of these kids, they dream of going to the pros, but for a lot of kids that's not the reality, and they have to live with their body for life. So if in the long run it's better for him, as an average person 20, 30 years down the road, if he feels that's right, more power to him.
Yeah, that's a good point, Preston, about long term. Because I mean, their time with football is limited, and they still have to live the rest of their life. So, that's a good point.
Article, like I said, I'd never heard of the kid at first, and it's interesting. I want to look more into it and see. That article I think was on the 2nd, so I've had it for a week or so, and I don't know. It was interesting.
All right. Any final thoughts on that? Like maybe yes or no on teams and alternative treatments or therapies?
I think it's good.
I think if the player wants to seek out alternative treatments, the teams should let him seek alternative treatments.
I agree.
The question is, though, so the real question is, and I don't know if you know this, Preston, is SMU picking up that tab for those other doctors that he's choosing to go to? I mean, it'd just be like a regular medical insurance. If you go somebody outside your provider, you got to pay for it.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. He's doing it all with his brother and that guy. So his brother and that guy, I guess, are acting like the doctors. So, and that's why I would like to look. I mean, I don't know how much there's going to be out there of it, but the article, I mean, yeah, he would do his checkups required by SMU, but no doctors were doing it. His brother and that other guy were. So, I mean, I as far as cost, I don't know. I'm sure it's costing him something, but I don't know. I don't know. That'd be interesting to look at and find out.
Maybe he's going to exchange it for NIL, so he'll promote him on his he'll promote him on his social media in exchange for the treatment.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. No, that was a great story. So really good lead off there. Solid job, Dwayne. All right. Who wants to go next?
I guess I can go next.
Okay.
So being the football guy, of course, I bet it's already been in the headlines, the lexicon, the whole Urban Meyer situation. It seems like, I knew it was going to be bad, but it's worse than we thought. It's like watching the Titanic sink, and right before it touches the bottom of the ocean, it catches on fire for some reason, and then it explodes. The whole Tim Tebow, the strength coach, and now this whole situation at the bar. My question is, with Urban Meyer, he's had a track record. Does success kind of blind us to some of the red flags he's had? And if we keep having the same issues, because he's not the first coach to have this, like Bobby Petrino's another example. If, there's a history of college coaches and other coaches having issues, why do we keep hiring, similar guys and being surprised when we see similar results, I guess?
I think we are. I think we are blinded by success. I mean, we're willing to sweep it under the rug as long as you're winning, which he's not. I mean, he's not having success right now, but he's had success before at Florida, at Ohio State, at Utah. So, I mean, I think we are blinded by it, and we're willing to turn a blind eye to it. As long as you're giving me what I want, you're good. Just don't do it out in public like he did. So I think we are kind of blinded by that. As long as we're having success and we're getting guys and we're good. You, like they say, you do you.
But to go to Preston's point, why we keep hiring him, Urban Meyer never had a past of this.
Mm-hmm.
Never had any kind of history of anything like that. If anything, his history was more about the mental well-being and stuff that he dealt with before, the panic attacks, and then how his family stood by him, and then the winning. And I mean, if you look at it, he's kind of had a very odd career. I mean, just walking away from Florida and then walking away from Ohio State, you know, it's kind of a weird situation. Did you say he's done this before or had?
He's had this is the first time he himself has been, you know, reprimanded for his own actions. But a lot of his players, like especially at Florida, you know, a lot of people were like, why are these players, you know, they're getting into criminal activity, yet in terms of team play and playing time, they're going unpunished.
Well, because he had Aaron Hernandez at Florida, you know,
the Pouncey brothers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did, both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would agree with Dwayne. Yes, we are we are blinded by it, and there'll always be somebody willing to give some with a few exceptions, right? Like Ray Rice never got a second chance. People have tried to give Art Briles a second chance, but it's not, you know, there's usually been too much pushback and resistance to that. But I actually on the ticker yesterday, someone had surveyed 8 Power 5 and Group of 5 ADs to see if they would hire Urban Meyer, and it was like 75% of Group of 5 said no, and 85% of Power 5 said no, they wouldn't hire him. So because I've heard he's doing this to just get the Southern Cal job, so the Jaguars will get rid of him and then he can go to Southern Cal. But I'm like, man, if you're the Southern Cal AD, can you bring this guy in after this thing, right? And then and I'm not trying to belittle his health situation and those kinds of circumstances, but you know, he kind of has a track record of coming in for a few years and then he just leaves, you know? And so there's some stability questions, I think. And well, I would argue this is a private issue, although I'm really fascinated by how it came to light, and we can maybe touch on that. But I just think at some point you have to say look, it's not worth it. You know, yeah, he might help us win. I don't know, you know, and I guess maybe if you're willing to exchange a championship for, you know, some problems a few years after that, but I really don't think Southern Cal can afford to hire him right now, because I think they've got to really nail this hire. So yeah, I mean, could I see a lower tier D1 or Group of 5 school? Yeah, if Texas State fires Jake Spadoval, could I see Texas State making an offer to Urban Meyer? Sure. Yeah, you know, but I don't know. It's just the whole thing is just so bizarre to me. But I mean, that's something we talk about in a lot of our classes, right? Is what goes into giving people second chances, and how do you decide to do that, and what kind of things. And you know, Dwayne, to your point, you know, winning matters. So if you've got a track record of winning, I think somebody somewhere is going to be willing to give you another opportunity.
And I mean, the point to me is I see a lot of Urban Meyer fans or people defending him saying, well, what he did at the bar isn't necessarily illegal. You know, he's a guy, he's going to do whatever he does. That's between him and his family. And sure it is, you know, but I think especially nowadays with the social media and the presence, if you're a real famous person, you kind of got to walk a straight and narrow, because, you know, you can't afford to foul up.
And it's like they said, you know, they had just gotten beat Thursday night, doesn't go home with his team, which that's a whole nother story, because that's a whole nother uproar from former NFL players. But they're like, you're Urban Meyer, first of all, going back to, I don't know if was it in Columbus?
It was in Columbus.
They're like, okay, well, you go back to Columbus, and then you're in a freaking Ohio State hoodie. Dude, come on. What, you know?
Because I think the bar, he either owns it or he's a partner in it.
I read that.
Go ahead, Dustin.
I think the most impressive thing is how the Jaguars owner handled it. You know, Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, how he came out. He said, you know, look, we've addressed it with Urban, and a lot of that conversation is going to be held in confidence. And he goes on to say, what I will say is his conduct last weekend was inexcusable. I appreciate Urban's remorse, which I believe is sincere. Now he must regain our trust and respect. That is, I think that speaks volumes about the owner of Jaguars and the type of level that all his players and staff is going to be held to. I mean, Shad Khan kind of seems like, I don't care who you are, you're not gonna mess with our side and how it goes.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was very impressed with that. Like, I mean, I just try to envision it like, say Jerry Jones. Let's say that Mike McCarthy went out and did the same thing. I mean, Jerry Jones would more likely come out and say, he's our coach. We handled it internally, and that'd be all he said. But for him to go out and say, look, he's got to gain our respect and our trust, that's huge.
Yeah. And I'm not sure he's going to be able to do it, honestly. I mean, things there have not gone well. And, and I don't know if we've talked about it on here or not, but, there's been reports about how his culture and how he's, it's not working well with some of the ways, like he's treating veteran players. And I think that's one of the challenges when you hire a college coach is like, you go from having like, it's all you. And now you're going into a locker room where most of the players make more than you. Like you can't, you know what I mean? Like you can't yell at an 8-year vet about a missed tackle like you can a freshman linebacker. You know what I mean? And I, again, just from the reports I've read, that sounds like part of the problem is he's trying to coach them like he's coaching 18 to 22-year-olds, and you can't do that.
And yeah, I've read the same thing that, he's gonna have to do a lot to get their respect and all that. But one of the articles was like, he's never had their respect. None of those guys, a bunch of those guys have no respect for Urban Meyer. Even prior to this, they, just like you said, the way he's running his organization, they don't have any respect for him. They're done with the college years. That was, for some guys, that was 10 years ago, and they're not trying to go back to being treated like a freshman or whatever it was. So, but yeah, I've read the same, that he's not very well liked in that, I guess, in that organization or in that facility. So yeah, it's tough. It's definitely going to be tough for him.
So how many college coaches have went to the NFL and been successful?
I mean, I can only think of, Jimmy Johnson is the one I think of right off the bat.
Pete Carroll, the second time around, like he did not.
I mean, look at Nick Saban. He went to the Dolphins and then had to come and look at him now. I mean, he's great. I think just some people are cut out for certain roles, and I understand the opportunity to go to the next level, but it's just like anything else. You have to kind of know your role.
Yeah.
So that's a good, let me just ask you this, Dustin, because you made me think of this. So Lincoln Riley, could he be an NFL coach successfully? Yes or no? No.
I agree.
I think he could be. I think he's more just than a recruiter. So, because I think that's what Urban Meyer is. He's a recruiter. And that's what Nick Saban is. They're recruiters. They bet on, my talent being better than yours. In the NFL, that is very, very slim. You need to be able to strategize. I think Lincoln Riley is a good strategizer.
All right, one more, Matt Campbell.
I don't think so. I think he'll be good at a bigger school than Iowa State.
No, that's enough for me.
See, I don't know. Look at Scott Frost. He had that great year at UCF, and in Nebraska's, they're dying. I mean,
so here's one. So, I mean, go text Warren one. So say they lose the rest of the season. They fire Coach Wells. Would y'all be opposed to them going after Urban Meyer? What do you think there'd be kickback on them going after Urban Meyer?
I think there'd be kickback from the national media. I think the fan base would be all for it. And so then it would just become, to what extent does the administration, like, how much do they want to fight off the national media? That would be, but I think most fans would be all for it just because of his results. I mean,
because he wins.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said, Dwayne, as long as he wins, we sweep everything under the rug.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
That's interesting to think about. I hadn't thought about that, but I don't know. That would be interesting for sure. Yeah. So let me ask just Press. I want to ask you guys this too, because we talked about it in class. because you mentioned this a little bit, Preston, but like, what do you all think about just the whole aspect of social media, like for athletes and coaches? Like, it just seems like anywhere they go, they have to just assume that they're being recorded or they're being watched. I'm not sure that's right. I'm not sure that's ethical, but I think that's just the reality of the world we live in too. So I guess just any thoughts on like what, because I actually had a coach, text me and was like, what was he thinking? And I'm like, you just forget, sometimes. Right. And so but I just think that's the world we live in now too, where it's like, if you're of that caliber, anywhere you go, you just have to assume someone's got a cell phone that's watching you. And that sucks, but I think that's the world, how it is.
Man, I don't even think it's like coaches and athletes. It's everybody. Because, I mean, if we were out doing something we weren't supposed to be doing at, Chick-fil-A, first thing somebody's going to do is pull their phone out. So, I mean, I think it's with everybody. And I don't, it's not, I mean, obviously it's not a good situation, but I mean, I don't know. I think everybody just kind of has to be careful with what they're doing and behavior wise. Because look at those two WNBA girls, teammates that were recorded. They were at a club. It was called a day club. So I guess a club in the middle of the daytime. And, they get into that fight. And, man, those girls were getting after it. So the Dream came out yesterday and said, look, we don't want anything to do with them. They're not coming back. We're not bringing them back.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, it broke, I guess, yesterday afternoon.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Dream had already came out late yesterday, and we're like, no, we're not bringing these two back.
Oh, so, yeah, it was by a food truck.
Yeah.
I guess to answer your question, Doc, I mean, that's just the price of fame. That's the price of notoriety. Is it right? No, but I mean, that's just the price you pay. You got to kind of walk a straight and narrow and kind of, especially nowadays, be careful of what you're doing at all times, if you're in a public setting like that. So.
Yeah.
No, those are good points. That was a great story. It's going to be really interesting to watch because now all the eyes are going to be like, I think they're going to be just scrutinized. Every little thing is going to be micro analyzed. So I'm kind of like you, Preston. I'll be shocked if he lasts the season.
Yeah.
So, all right.
They say winless. They're 0-4 right now, right?
Yeah.
I think if they lose 2 more games, he's done. I mean.
Well, it sounds like, and Preston, were you talking about this before? Like they're probably just trying to see if they can fire him with costs. So they don't have to pay him.
I mean, this is just, rumblings, but Michael Lombardi, who's a former NFL GM, he's got a lot of ties to the NFL. He said that they've been holding secret meetings and they've been trying to find a way that they can fire him with cause, because with cause, they don't owe him anything. Apparently the big barrier to him just being gone today is the fact that they would have to buy out his contract and, pay that rest of that salary, whatever it is. So it'll be interesting to see if they can actually find something, and if they do.
Yeah. Crazy. I mean, it's just there's no shortage of story. I mean, it's just crazy how these things. Like, I mean, every and I hadn't even heard about those WNBA players fighting. So that, Dwayne, thanks for that. That'll be a good class discussion too. So. All right. You want to go, Dustin, or you want me to go?
No, I'll go.
Okay.
So Deshaun Watson, right? Everybody knows about him, the Texans quarterback that's got 22 lawsuits against him. Nothing's happened from it. They're going through litigation. The FBI's in it now. And they said that the civil suit wouldn't be over until past the trade deadline of November 7th, right? So there was a comment made by Cal McNair the other day, and he made the comment. They asked about Deshaun Watson because he's been linked to going to Miami or even getting traded, period. Cal McNair just said, we'll see. So they're kind of sitting back waiting on the whole civil process to happen. My question to you guys is this, so the Houston Texans picked up Tyrod Taylor. He went down with an injury, and then they got this Meeks. His name Meeks?
Meeks.
Yeah.
I just knew they had the guy from Stanford, the kid from Stanford,
yeah.
But is there somebody else?
So So now he's starting. So, and they keep Deshaun Watson on the pup list, not the pup list. They keep him on the.
It's like the commissioner's exempt list.
Yeah, that's what they put him on, right? So my question is this: is owners talk about how much they owe the fans and things like that. Deshaun Watson can play. Roger Goodell came out and said, yeah, Deshaun Watson can play because we can't really do anything until these civil suits are solved, and then they can go in and do their own investigation. So do the Houston Texans owe it to their fan base, because they're horrible right now? Do they owe it to their fan base to come forward with Watson, or is this something that they don't want to get rid of him because he's an elite quarterback? And if they get rid of him, they probably won't get much in return. So as a GM, do you owe it to and an owner, do you owe it to your fans, or you owe it to saving your own backside?
But, I mean, as a person who wants to be a GM, I mean, I could definitely see. I'm leaning more toward that second side where it's like, I can see why the Texans haven't activated him yet. It's because they probably know that they're not going to be able to trade him in time, and even if they do, it's not going to be the king's ransom they first wanted, you know. And I mean, that's just the business of sports. I mean, fans are great. Fans are an integral part of sports, but in all honesty, when it comes to the professional sports in particular, they're not really factored into decisions.
Yeah. Well, see, something I found really interesting is Deshaun Watson, and I know Doc knows he loves Twitter, so I actually went on Twitter and found something on Twitter. So on March 16th, when this kicked off, Deshaun Watson posted a tweet, and it said, as a result of social media posts by a publicity-seeking plaintiff's lawyer, I recently became aware of a lawsuit that has apparently been filed against me. Now, keep in mind, this is March 16th. I have not yet seen the complaint, but I know this. I have never treated with any woman with anything other than the utmost respect. The plaintiff's lawyer claims that this isn't about money, but before filing suit, he made a baseless six-figure settlement demand, which I quickly rejected. Unlike him, this isn't about money for me. It's about clearing my name, and I look forward to doing it. So does that change your idea on the thought of it, Preston?
So, yeah, I mean, yes, for me, I'll just be honest. I mean, it's hard for me because he was my student at Clemson. So like, and I think I may have said something about that in class, just of like, he was like super respectful, did good work.
Personal connection there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think this raises a question of like, do we, who do we believe? Right. And how do we, this is the trick for general managers and front offices is like, do you let the whole legal thing play out? Do you take action before the legal thing plays out, or what do you do? So, I mean, and I say that not trying to be insensitive to anyone who's gone through that kind of thing. Right. So I completely understand that. But so I it does for me, but then to answer your earlier question, Dustin, like the relationship there has been sour well before these allegations came out. I mean, it was deteriorating. And look, we could sit here and talk about the Texans and their culture and all that good stuff, but it's not salvageable at this point. Like, I mean, it's just not, he doesn't want to play there. It's in my view, it's ruined beyond repair. So you take what you can get for him and you move on. And you understand that you're going to have to go back and rebuild. That's where the Texans are. They're not, whatever they tried to do, it didn't work out. So now you've got to scrap it and start over. And yeah, that might result in house cleaning, but it's not a salvageable relationship. I mean, in my opinion.
Well, that's what, like, if you go to the Zeke Elliott case, he had a domestic thing, and then he got suspended the first 6 games, right? But that was a quick deal. This has been dragging on since March. Mm-hmm. They started investigation in June. I'm with you. Like, the Houston Texans cut their loss because without a doubt, Roger Goodell is going to hand down a suspension. Mm-hmm. So then you're out more games. And then you have this, he's a restricted free agent next year. So what are you gaining from keeping him?
Right. And also, like, whenever it does the lawsuits get more traction, they're settled or whatever, that's just going to bring more media attention and stuff. So if he's somewhere else, then somewhere else, like the Dolphins is the team I've seen the most. So then it's the Dolphins' problem. It's not the Texans' problem anymore. So yeah, that's a good point.
So what do you think, Mr. GM Preston?
Like I said, I'm with y'all. Like I would trade him, but release him. But I can see what they're doing. I can see that they're trying to find somebody who's willing to take on this baggage. And right now, it looks like it's going to be the Dolphins. And if they want to take him, knowing that litigation is going to come up ahead with a suspension, by all means, take him off our hands. But it looks like now just release him. Just be done with it. Let him go on with his life and handle what he has to handle. So,
do you trade Tua?
Yeah, I would trade Tua. I would trade Tua, see if I get like a 4th or 5th round for him, maybe even a 3rd. So,
you think that's all you'd get for him?
I mean, he hasn't performed that well. So,
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, the Patriots just traded arguably the best corner in the league for a 6th round pick. So, who all knows what goes into trades?
Yeah, that's true.
Who values what? So.
Well, you can't take away from Deshaun's accomplishments on the field when he played.
No,
And he's gonna get back on the field. He's gonna go back to doing what he does. So I think I'm with Preston. You trade Tua for him. The Houston Texans, you get a quarterback right away. And he's a future quarterback. So you don't have to worry about trying to sign somebody in the offseason. So you have that, and then the Dolphins get all that headache. But when he comes back, the Dolphins, more than likely next season, the Dolphins have a quarterback they don't have to worry about.
So if he can play, why do y'all think the Texans aren't playing him? Is it you think they're trying to avoid pushback from fans, or if he can play, if Roger Goodell's already said he can play, this is coming from a coach because we've been the high school I was at, we were in a similar situation, and our head coach was like, if dude can play, he's gonna play. So he played. So I'm just curious, like, is it? And obviously, high school and the NFL is obviously different. But you think they're protecting themselves, or do they have some of the best interests in mind for him in case, like, trying to keep him from getting hurt, or what do you think they aren't playing him? That's just, I don't know if he can help you.
I think they're just trying to be vindictive. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think when Deshaun came out and said, I don't want to play for you guys no more. I think now
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So right after the season ended, Deshaun made comments saying that he didn't want to be in Houston anymore.
Oh yeah. Okay. I remember that.
So he was out already then. Now it's just kind of like they're holding the bag saying, you know what? We're not gonna let you go.
So is he getting paid?
Yeah, he's still getting paid.
Yeah.
But I think it's still, it leaves a huge bad taste in your mouth with the Texans.
Yeah.
It's got to speak volumes for them because nobody's going to want to go there. The turnover they have in coaching, the Cal McNair, with Dwayne Brown, the left tackle, when he left and went to Seattle, he threw out all kinds of stuff about Cal McNair, the owner, related to racism. Right. So that already left Cal McNair with a black eye. And then this whole Deshaun Watson thing, it's,
Well, don't forget DeAndre Hopkins either.
And
right?
JJ.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Roger came out and said some stuff, and he's there. Like,
I'm glad he's in Arizona. Don't get me wrong, but they kind of turned the corner. They lost that game to the Bills in the playoffs, but they, you could kind of start to see some momentum because something's going on with that organization because they just cannot. It's all like, I would say it's like a cultural thing that kind of gets to your point, Dustin. Something's going on there because it is just they're constantly in turmoil, it seems like, and they've made some bad hires, and I don't know, it's weird.
Urban Meyer will be there next.
Urban Meyer, next coach of the Texans. I love it. So
All right, so is it for the fans or is it for their own backside?
For their own backside.
Backside, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a little of both.
I mean, is there even anyone who would claim to be a Texans fan at this
I was
point?
going to say, I don't know how many fans that I mean, Texans, I don't watch the Texans, but I don't know, I think it's a little of both.
Yeah.
The only
You're probably
Texans
right.
fan I know is UFC heavyweight Derek Lewis. That's the only Texans fan I know. Or I know of.
No, it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre how it's all played out down there. It's just really, really weird. But so, all right. Well, I guess that brings it to me. So I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say about this. So I want to talk about Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. So I'm sure we all know, it's not gone so well for Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers this year. And I'm really and this kind of came up in the org behavior class the other week, but I really want to hear from you guys. So like, how should sports organizations, when they have like a legacy quarterback, like a Roethlisberger, and we kind of seeing a similar situation in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers when they drafted Jordan Love, like how should sports organizations handle when a legacy athlete's kind of nearing the winding down of their career? Like, should they just let them finish it out? Should they get their permission to draft a replacement? I don't know. I'm just curious what you all think about, like, looking at what's going on with Big Ben in Pittsburgh and like how sports teams should handle those kinds of situations.
I believe they should give him this season, and then obviously maybe consult him on his replacement because he's got to know it's near the end. But they don't always do that. Like the Joe Montana and Steve Young. Joe Montana didn't want Steve Young there, so I mean it's just dependent. As long as you don't do what the Giants did to Eli Manning, I think you can come out pretty favorably in this whole situation.
I think you got to look at it from the business side. I mean, the Green Bay's having some success, but you hear the outside stuff that goes on. I think because it is a business. I think if you're like, Jacksonville, it's 0-4. If Green Bay was 0-4 right now, I think you got to look at going maybe another direction. But I think you also kind of like Preston said, they should know that they're on their tail end of their career. But you're a freaking professional athlete. You don't want to realize that. You don't want to accept that, hey, man, I'm done. But I think, yeah, you consult with them a little bit. But then, again, it's a business. You're going to want to draft. If you have the number one pick, you're going to go after the best player or the best player that's going to help your organization. So, yeah, I think you got to consult with them a little bit. But don't I don't want him here because he's going to take my spot. I don't think you can go to the bank with that. If that number one pick is going to make you better, then I think you got to go after him regardless.
Oh man, me personally, I would if it was a legacy quarterback like Big Ben or Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is still playing at such a high level.
Mm-hmm.
When you move up in the draft to draft somebody like that, I think that that was totally disrespectful to him. But they did the same thing when they drafted him when Brett Favre was there. Mm-hmm. But I think if I had Big Ben next year, I'd let him finish out the season. But I would actually, during the pro days for the next year, I would actually take him with me. Mm. He knows the offense better than anybody. He can watch it's like Jordan Palmer right now. Jordan Palmer has one of the most elite quarterback camps out for upcoming quarterbacks. But I take Ben Roethlisberger to me and make him as integral to the process that I can, because that way he's picking his successor. He's going to be more apt to help that new quarterback, to foster him, to say, hey, and then that way it's kind of it's like when you're a dad and you kind of let your kid walk. Like you're there, but you helped him get there. And then when he's there, you're so proud. That's what I would do. Like with Dak Prescott, when he retires, I think that's something that you as the organization owes. Ben won 2 Super Bowls for him. Yeah. I think that's something you owe a legacy quarterback. So you take that and put them as much into it as you can to make them feel better about it. Because it's like Preston says, they want it to be. But when they start training that new guy, they kind of realize that, okay, I'm kind of getting it.
Yeah.
Kind of getting older with this. So can't function anymore.
And it's in the best interest of your organization to have somebody kind of in the pocket. You don't want to be like my Saints right now and rely on famous Jameis Winston to come in for Drew Brees. But not everybody can have a Steve Young right after Joe Montana. That's just the reality of the situation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and to the Steelers really haven't tried to draft somebody, I would argue, to replace Ben. I mean, I know they have Mason Rudolph, and they tried Dwayne Haskins, I think, but yeah, they've really not. They didn't do what the Packers did for sure, But even New England had, New England and Brady had to part ways, So it's I don't know. I think it's kind of a challenging thing to navigate, to not burn the relationships and still but still win, right? Because I think the Steelers are 1-3. Is that right? So, yeah. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, even with Dan Marino with Miami, it's never won a Super Bowl, but how much he gave to your organization year in and year out. It's like anything else. I mean, hell, LeBron James, I think, has more pull with that organization, with any organization he goes to, than the head of basketball operations or anybody like that. I think football is just a completely different. And Preston knows he's the football guy. Football is a completely different dynamic than Dwayne with baseball. It's just completely different.
Yeah, there's still a lot of respect things. There's a lot of old ways of doing things in the NFL, especially with those, what would you call a statesman team like the Steelers. There's a certain way you do things.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think with baseball it's different because hell, you got A, double A, triple A, and then you got developmental, you got rookie, you got high A. So there's 50-something rounds of the draft, so somebody's going to come eventually to replace you. And if you have a bad couple months, you can get sent down to triple A. So, yeah, it's a different dynamic with football. And, because you have the practice squad and you have your backup or whatever, but there's really no other developmental league, I guess you can say, that you have to worry about somebody coming in and taking your spot like the baseball does. Like I said, hell, they got 8 leagues that you can be a part of in a season. So,
well, yeah, there's definitely a different culture to some of the leagues than even the teams, right? So the Steelers have a very tried and true way of doing things, and it's been successful. They've won. They don't have turnover in the coaching ranks. I mean, so it's a pretty smooth running operation. So, I think you just got to trust their particular system in that situation, that it'll work. They might not be competitive for the next couple of years, but, if you're winning a Super Bowl twice every 10 years, most teams would take that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, they've only had 3 head coaches in 60 years. So.
I know. It's crazy.
I read something on Twitter and it was every 5 years, your franchise has to have a complete turnover. If not, you're having success. And I guess that's kind of what we're talking about is the stability. I mean, if you're having the stability of the Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger, then in 5 years, why are you going to change it? So, I mean, I thought that was interesting because it's true to an extent, but if something's working, why are you going to start completely over, have that turnover?
Yeah, for sure. Right. So, yeah. Why didn't the Saints do a better job replacing Drew Brees, Preston?
You can't find a guy like that. You can't find a Drew Brees. It's hard to find something like that. I mean, we drafted Garrett Grayson a number of years ago. We thought Sean Payton was comparing Taysom Hill to Steve Young, which he clearly isn't. I mean,
yeah.
I guess Jameis Winston fell in our lap. So
I guess, yeah. I don't know. Maybe they should go get Deshaun Watson. Who knows? So,
I mean, if we had cap room, maybe.
Yeah. So, well, great episode today, gentlemen. So, really enjoyed our conversation and discussion. So, thanks everybody for joining. And
I got a last question.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, go ahead, Dustin. My bad.
So yesterday was the NL wild card. And the Dodgers beat the Cardinals 3-1, and they won off a 2-run home run by Chris Taylor in the bottom of the ninth.
Baseball, baby.
So my question to you guys, right? And I wrote down what I think you guys' answers are going to be.
Okay.
So do you think a last-second shot in March Madness or a Hail Mary in football or a home run in the bottom of the ninth, which one would you rather see happen?
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. It's hard.
That is tough. So you'll probably have this right for me. I'm going to say a home run in the bottom of the ninth just because there's something about it. I don't know. Like it just really, maybe because they're all rare to a certain extent, but yeah, I don't know. There's just something about the vibes or the feel but I would say a home run in the bottom of the ninth in the playoffs. If it's just regular season,
yeah,
I don't think it's that big of a deal. Although when the Gonzaga kid, I think Suggs, when he made that like half court shot to win their Final Four game, like that was pretty amazing too. So by the slimmest of margins, I'm going to say a home run in the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah, I'm going to, especially like last night, the division, or it was the wild card to go to the division. Man, it doesn't get any better. Plus freaking Chavez Ravine was rocking last night. So I'm going with the walk-off.
Well, and I'm sorry, just real quick. I'm still sore at the Cardinals for what they did to the Rangers all those years ago. So when it's the Cardinals on the other end,
hey, bro, that's no
I love it.
That's his thing. That's stupid. Can't catch a fly ball. Oh.
I might surprise you, Justin. I might surprise you, but I'm going to go with a last-second shot in March Madness, especially if the team landing that last-second shot is the underdog team.
There we go.
Look at that. That's awesome. Yeah,
Three for three.
So
Preston was the only one I was worried about.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. That's a fun discussion too, like our records from last week. That was a fun discussion too about the records. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'll just say this, like the one I still remember of all of them was when Kurt Gibson hit that home run against the A's. Like, cause I was only like 10 years old, but, and he was gimpy. He was on one leg and he hit that bomb, and Eckersley was like a legit reliever. And man, Kurt Gibson he was on one leg and hit that bomb to win the game. And that's just still, I think, one of my most favorite sport moments ever. So
Dude, that for me, that moment for me is the ALCS with the Red Sox and Yankees in 2004, their first World Series. They're playing 2 games in a row well past midnight in New York, and Dave Roberts still second base, and David Ortiz, and so that moment for me is that Red Sox that year they won that World Series in 2004. I was a senior in high school, so.
I guess the only reason I didn't pick the Hail Mary is because the Minneapolis Miracle is still fresh in my mind and haunts me to this day.
Yeah.
Mine is in the NCAA tournament when Bryce Drew for Valparaiso hit that last-second shot and beat Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, and I think with that, it depends on what team it is, too, with the NCAA, because you can have, an underdog, some small school, beat a Duke or beat a Kentucky. So I think it kind of depends on who's playing and who's going to make that shot.
Was it 2 or 3 years ago that North Carolina and who was it? Villanova were playing. North Carolina came down and hit that in the tournament, in the championship. North Carolina came down, hit that the last second shot, and Villanova came screaming back down the court, and they made that last second shot.
I think that was longer because I think that was my freshman year.
Yeah, that was like 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah. That
was a good moment too.
Even COVID wasn't here.
Yeah. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Had a great time. Loved it. Loved the conversation. And we will do it again next week. So thanks everybody for tuning in for Sports with Doc and Dudes.